I don't want to get into it.
And ain't nobody gonna stop me.
Front yard both times.
Fucking bath towel boy over here. Do you want me to start with our little?
I thought we were leading off with P's beard.
Are we leading off with my question? You want to get the brain juices flowing, and
I'm with it unless it's either that or P's beard. So flip a coin, huh?
No, it's a double-sided head coin. Looks like it's just going bug.
P's beard.
damn.
Okay.
So one of the things that we want to do is maybe to kick off our podcast is to do either a question or a certain segment each week to kind of get the brain flowing, so we kind of get in the right gear, right? So we get in the right gear, and then we also, I don't know, maybe have a fucking laugh or something like that. So I was thinking about this, and my question for today is, would you rather? This is a would you rather, okay? Would you rather live the rest of your life, your entire life, surrounded by just people that annoy you? Or would you rather live your entire life completely alone? Like, we're talking no people, no pets, no nothing. You have what you need to survive, but you're completely alone your entire life. And you're living a normal life, average, lifespan, all that. So it's not like we're talking a couple years and you could just, no, your entire life.
All right, we're going, Steve, since you killed the snail one last time, we're going to pass to you early on.
Well, I was just thinking about that, I mean, in a way, some of the people that annoy you the most in your life is your family. So,
yep.
Not for any reason other than it's your family, right?
Yep.
And you love them, and that's who they are. And sometimes they do things, and you as a family member to them do things that drive you fucking crazy. So to me, I would be surrounded by people that annoy me, because then I'd be surrounded by my family.
No,
Good answer. There's Steve's first TikTok.
Yeah.
Steve's first TikTok, everybody. Timestamp that.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty quick one. Not bad. Oh, yeah. He takes a big swig.
He's like, you forgot to add in there, but I love y'all.
Yeah, well, I do. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's that I would choose to live with them because they're my family and I love them. And like, not just my kids and my wife, but I mean, like, all of my family.
Like your dad, right? Brothers. So,
and cousins, all of them.
Cousins.
So, that would be.
Yeah. I think I gotta agree. I mean, maybe not about family annoying you, but like about people who annoy you, you'd have to choose them. I mean, if anything shows in human nature that like you can't be alone. Like, they do experiments all the time. I mean, they're rats, but if you put a bunch of rats in a cage with no food and you put one rat in a cage by himself, secluded with a bunch of food, he will die first. And they said it's pretty similar for humans. Like, you just need human interaction. So whether it annoys you or not.
We're all rats.
We're all master splinters. But, and also, they say that, I mean, not always, but people who annoy you, they annoy you because they're similar to you sometimes. Too similar. Like, my wife gets very upset at her mom sometimes. And I'm like, you guys are just twins. You're getting mad at yourself. Maybe not twins, but they like
just look at the mirror and just yell at yourself.
Yep, similar personalities, and they butt heads because I'm like, you guys are arguing the same thing. Just you want to be right, she wants to be right. So that's
I'm gonna go same route, and one way to look at it is there's a reason why solitary confinement is a huge punishment. and how people dread it. And that is like, you don't want to be there, is because that is just not in our human nature. And it's going to drive you insane at some point. Now, granted, they're confined in a small place in the dark.
Setting's
Whatever.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
setting's
The
different.
dark's
But
fucking a killer, but yeah.
it's the concept of it. Solitary confinement. You are just by yourself in your own thoughts. And if you have no other choice but to be by yourself and in your own thoughts, then there's no outside people to change the way that you're thinking. If you're going down a dark path and it's only you in your own thoughts, you're going to continue down that path. So you're with people that annoy you, you can change the dynamic of how your mind works. You're going to be in a shitty situation because they're annoying you, but at the same time, you might get to know them a little bit better. You guys can find you have something in common, and who knows? Those people that annoy you turn out to be someone that is very much like you, kind of like Brad was saying. And then you click, and then it turns into now you have good company rather than people who annoy you. Now, I don't know if that goes along the guidelines of the way you propose the question, but we all kind of flipped it on you. Now, what do you
Yeah.
got, Bug?
You're
No,
all
I think-
alone, Bug. About that.
No, I think the interesting thing. So obviously, I've had more time to think about this because I came up with it, right? But so I'll originally I went the seclusion route, right? Because in my head, I'm like, dude, I could be in a cabin like with all my essentials in the woods and nature and like beautiful scenery, and won't have like people barking at me to do this or do that and whatever, and like I can just like explore and be me. But like that's great for maybe like a month, and then shit gets real lonely, it's real dark. And I think it's pretty obvious that, like you were saying, Brad, is early on might seem great, because all your like problems kind of go away and you just deal with yourself. But there's a point where that only lasts so long, and you could be the most introverted introvert in the world. That's going to die out. And I thought about it, and I didn't think about Steve's point of view, but it's interesting because I thought about it as like nobody family related. Now, yeah, my family annoys me, don't get me wrong, but I thought about coworkers or people I run into every day or people I don't associate because I don't like them, right? But the interesting thing is, in my head, I would probably adapt a little bit, and either A, like P, you were saying, you probably maybe start acting like them because you're around them all the time, and they might become less annoying because you're starting to kind of morph into what they are. Right. So, I mean,
Bunch of rats.
ultimately, yeah, I'm a molded rat just following in the footsteps. But I think that ultimately, like, you gotta go with people, because if you have no interaction, you're going to drive yourself into the ground way faster than the other route. Like, you can learn to adapt. So
Yeah. I was gonna ask if you got a dog, but I was like, yeah.
no animals. Yeah, if you have a dog,
I
like,
already knew the answer.
yeah, it kind of changes it a little bit. It could change it.
Good. I mean, you might be able to last a little bit longer, like secluded.
But they're not gonna last as long, lifespan wise. They're not gonna last as long as you. So
exactly.
unless you can get a new dog every time, and
be your bud, then some weird shit might happen. Moving on.
yeah.
I don't know. Tom
Oh, hey,
Hanks
wow,
even threw Wilson out of a cave. Like, he got pissed at him. He just
Why,
hugged him.
why
Oh,
does
yeah.
Brad keep
get
requesting
sick of
female
anybody.
dogs?
Bitches.
They're
Moving
always- okay.
Oh yeah.
We're towing the line.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I almost crossed the line by asking
Uh-huh.
what did we do? Wilson, he's his boy, but how much? Moving on.
Why is that?
Let's scoot along now.
Oh,
I mean, so before we get into it too much, I had a little bit of request to say who's on the podcast, so you kind of know the voice with the person. Maybe you can't put a face unless you follow the TikTok, but might just
Untamed
rattle.
_ entertainment.
Bug killing it. So tonight we got Steve over here. We got P and Bug, and it's always your boy. So that being said, we usually have Timbo around a little bit too, so he's out tonight. But so I figured we could move into overcoming obstacles. I feel like this is a really big one in life. I feel like this really needs to, really sink in to not only like everyone, but, listeners, us, always growing. And that's probably one of the biggest things I think in life is overcoming obstacles or stuff in your way. Because, they could either stop you dead in your tracks for a long time, or you figure out a way around them, right? So, the only way is moving forward, but that doesn't mean that stuff isn't tough or stuff doesn't get in the way or take a long time to figure out. So, I was kind of thinking about what to go into first, and I think a good way to lead off, Bug, we're going to send this your ways. I think we're going to go into like, how does failure teach you to become like your best you? And pertaining to, obstacles in your way, obviously you're going to fail at something, that obstacle, but how does it play, teach you, play a big factor in like becoming the best you?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because you'll have a lot of people that just say like, "Oh, I've never failed. I've just learned." Right? I've never failed. I didn't get what I wanted done, and that taught me where I needed to go. Right? But failure's a thing, right? You didn't achieve what you wanted to. You didn't get to the finish line, or maybe you got there, but it wasn't quite what you expected, and it can be all walks of life. It could be in your job, your family, your sports, your hobbies, relationships, whatever. And I think to me, like kind of looking back on the many times I've failed is, you know, it it changes your course, your path, right? Like you thought you were going down the right path or doing the right thing and you failed. And it's like it sucks. But it teaches you a lot of things, right? It teaches you that I got to rethink this. I got to get on a different path. I got to realize like what didn't work. Why didn't this work? So that my new path is restructured, is reformatted so that I can be more successful. The other side of it is it teaches you a lot about your own personality, right? Like how you handle failure is huge. Like early on, it's just like anything. It sounds crazy, but the practice makes perfect thing, and you can view that how you want. But the more you fail, the better you can handle it and power through it. And I'm not saying go out there trying to fail. That's not what I'm saying. It's like, don't get that misconstrued here. But if you think that you're always doing things right, you've never done something wrong, you're constantly succeeding, like odds are you're probably not in some way. And you're just kind of like clouded and lost in a whole different world. And there's going to be a point later in your life that someone calls you out on it or something happens and you're not going to know how to handle it.
Yeah.
So,
because nothing hits as hard as life, unfortunately. It's gonna smack you around, and if you can't handle it, if you never failed and everything's just been handed to you, or say you've just had this little paved road, path laid out, and you never had to fail. This isn't maybe not an everyday thing, but like you could go in and you were put on the best sports team, basketball, football, whatever, and you guys never lost, and you guys crushed everyone. And then just because you're put there, but then that never prepares you for anything in life. Like, you're kind of saying if you don't fail, then it's just kind of, well, now what? Because I don't know how to handle it or react, because this has never happened to me. So I think failing's the best way to grow. Right. And yeah. Jordan said, I forget who he's talking to. Maybe it's Arnold or Tony Robbins, something like that. But like, how did you become the best basketball player of all time? And he's like, oh, you hit all these game-winning shots, you win all these rings, and he's like, I'm the best because I missed 9,000 shots, over 9,000 shots. And he said, I don't know how many game-winning shots I've missed, but you learn how to overcome that, and then you start hitting them. But you can't get stopped by that failure. If he just stopped, he'd never been the greatest of all time. You know, so that is like, I don't know. It like you say, you shouldn't choose to fail, right?
Yeah,
But
no.
But thinking that you're never going to fail, you got to be naive, and life's going to hit you, and, you're going to have a hard time getting back up, right? So,
Yeah, agreed.
I guess maybe what's a couple ways like you've failed in life and you had to get back up? Because I know, maybe not a Jordan type, and you weren't, winning all these rings and, flashing them around. But, I feel like everyone has to get back up at some point, right? So, and what's better than a little story time?
Yeah, and I'll keep it sports related, and it's kind of, it's funny how you view failure and how you define it, how you really like measure it, right? Because I think it means different things to a lot of different people. You could just like, I was trying to get an A on a paper and I got a B. Okay, I failed. Well, I don't know if you really failed. You maybe just didn't quite meet where you were trying to go, right? But did you really fail? So I know it means a lot of different things, but going back to the sports world, 'cause I think we all, at least the four of us, we all played sports at various levels. And I go back to baseball, which was my main sport in high school. I think over my 4 years in high school, I think I lost less than 10 games over 4 years. And that's not a kudos to me. Like, it's a team game. I had probably 7 D1 players on my team, and I was not a D1 athlete.
Damn.
But when I got to college, I felt like, damn, like I can't wait to get a national championship, right? I can't wait to be like that guy. And I was thrown into an we were NAIA at the time, and you didn't have any roster limits. You didn't have any like you if you just wanted to show up and try out, you showed up and tried out. You didn't have to even like tell them, basically. And I showed up to a field of like 120 guys on like day one. I'm like, the hell is happening here? And there were 2 teams. In my first year, I didn't make the first team. I made the second team, but I was a starter. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this as a development. But that to me was a failure. And I could have pouted. I could have I looked at some of the guys. I'm like, okay, well, he picked him because he's bigger. Okay, and I'm an average sized dude. Oh, he picked him because he's got more power at the plate. And I kind of made these excuses on why I didn't make the first team. And I did that for a while, and it really kind of messed with my head because I was so used to constantly winning. And when I wasn't supposed to start, on varsity, and I got my chance, and I proved them that I could be their leadoff guy. And I went from batting ninth to leadoff and sitting on the bench to playing center field and like doing all these things. I'm like, shit, I should be on this first team. I'm not even playing D1. I'm playing NAIA. And I completely downgraded where I was at, downgraded the program, made excuses why I didn't make first team. And then I kind of looked in the mirror. It took a while, don't get me wrong. And I said, well, how am I going to get to first team next year or mid-season? How do I become a defensive replacement? Like, how do I do what I need to do to get that shot? And I'm not going to say there was a ranking or whatever, but I worked my ass off to be the number 1 player on that second team. So that if there was a call up come playoffs, like I was the guy. And there was no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Way more swings in the cages. I put on like 15 pounds of muscle. Like, I wasn't, like I said, it wasn't big, wasn't the fastest, the strongest, whatever, the best arm. But I was like, what box can I tell them they can't check of why I can't be on this team? So I'm not strong enough, check that box off. Not fast enough, cut my 60 time down. Can't throw hard enough. Well, I'm gonna prove them wrong there too. And I just did those things. and had great games and actually had a lot of fun, but our team was like losing way more than we were winning. And I was like, that was a struggle too. Cause I'm like, I'm used to winning. I'm putting in all this effort and I see some guys that aren't. Like, this is driving me nuts. We're trying to get to that next level. We're trying to get to the first team. And it was hard. It was a mind F. I'm not going to lie. It was very hard going from the top because we won state my senior year. I go on to college. I think I've got, big boy pants on, get knocked down, aren't winning games, don't see other people putting in the same effort. And it's tough.
Yeah, running 60s. Fuck, I thought it was a 40.
Well, that's how they measure baseball speed. Is how fast, not the 40 like in football. For baseball, it's 60-yard dash. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry,
Jesus, Bug, you little overachiever. Check out that box too, huh? Jesus,
no, they measure baseball speed in 60-yard dash.
Okay, that makes more sense. I mean, I played baseball as more of a football guy myself.
Yeah.
So, low 40s, but I feel like you made a lot of good points, man.
I mean, maybe a little rambling, but it's just like that can relate to a lot of other things, right? I mean, I felt like I was coming from we can't fail to like extremely tough mindset of like not making it to the team I wanted, questioning why, and then level setting, saying, how do I make this work so I can get to that next level?
Yeah.
And struggling again, seeing not other people putting in that effort to try to do the same thing. Like in my head at that point, I was like, I want every other outfielder on this team to challenge me for that next spot on the first team. And I didn't see that a whole lot. And if any of you are listening, I'm so sorry, but you didn't. But I'm saying, so it was tough. It was tough. And I think a lot of those guys just did it because, you got a scholarship, and at that level at NAI, if you quit the next day, you didn't lose your scholarship. And it wasn't called a scholarship. There was a package for NAI. I don't know how you guys, but basically you don't lose like in NCAA, you don't lose your scholarship if you don't play. Like, you keep the package that they put together for you. And so I think that like didn't motivate people to kind of continuously be better. If it didn't work out, okay, that's fine. I can just go party, go to class, kind of just coast through college, and I still get the same deal I came into. So,
yeah. I thought one point in particular that you made that I kind of want to touch on, and we can kind of want to hear your guys' thoughts too, fellas. But where you said, "Hey, I failed. I realized I failed. I hit this point, where I'm like, fuck, I got to figure it out." And then you said you checked off every box. You found out all of your weaknesses. You said, I got to check off this box, not strong enough, and better arm. Was in the batting cage every day. So, they couldn't say all this stuff. Like, I was going to be the next up. And you had that determination and that mindset, which is beautiful. That's what you need to have, I feel like, day and age. And, and sometimes, it takes a lot of life shit or failure. And sometimes it takes a shit ton of failure to figure out that, hey, this is the only way to go. My back is against the wall. I'm either going to play or I'm not going to play, or I'm going to check all these boxes off and, go hit it. And you were going to be the next one up. And that's applaud you for that, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and I'll hand it over to the other guys here, but it's funny. The little thing that I think embedded that in me, like a little bit earlier, was in high school. We had a great team all 4 years I was there. And you basically like, it was rare if you were a sophomore and got to play varsity. And, we had some of those guys because they were so good. And sophomore year, I was like, they tend to call up a couple guys at the end of the year to go on varsity. I'm like, so I'm doing everything I can. Same mindset, right? I want to get that call up because ironically they won state sophomore year. They called up 3 guys, a bat, a first baseman, and then an outfielder. I was like, you didn't, and the outfielder like was way more developed. He was just like I said, I was not a big dude, and I was pissed. I was so pissed. I was like, oh my God, I could have gone on that run with them. So my goal was to make sure that guy that got called up didn't beat me the next year. and we both made the team, but I played the position I really wanted to, and he played next to me. And for me, outfield, like center field, is like the golden position. I fucking love center field.
Oh
And
yeah.
so like I had that success
Ken
like
Griffey.
early on, like winning those battles. And I think that's what I had to kind of dig deep and say, like, it didn't go how you wanted it, but how do you reroute that? How do you reroute it to be the story you want it to be? And I had some issues after that, and it's unrelated to performance. It was injuries and stuff like that that just really sucked. But like, I made sure I did everything I possibly could to reroute that story when I got to college, when I hit that wall, when I hit that failure and that, I'd say dark place. It wasn't like a dark place, but it was kind of depressing, man. Like I wanted to have that, like that pedestal that oh man, you're a starter on first team and blah, blah, blah. So anyway.
And I guess were you doing that for yourself real quick, or were you doing that for somebody else? I guess you wanted to show that.
It's a great question. Originally, I was doing it for others, and I say others, but like selfishly myself too. Like I'm not gonna lie, like you make a diving catch and you get that praise, like kind of makes you feel good, right? Or you get the game-winning hit. Like I wanted to be that guy,
Yeah.
and I wasn't gonna be that guy on the team I wanted to be on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do it for my coaches growing up, and like the coaches that didn't give me the D1 shot that I wanted and stuff like that. So it was part of it was selfish, part of it was image. And then when I really dug into it and really took a step back and said, like, I'm still playing, right? I'm still getting to play baseball and I'm going to school for it. And they're indirectly paying me to do it, like, through my package deal. I can't say, you can't say scholarship, but, and it was, I had plenty of buddies in high school and other, travel ball teams I played with that didn't get that shot, and, I think it was tough playing with so many like D1 athletes in college or in high school that went to D1. I'm like, and I couldn't quite get there. But
That's
at the end of the
crazy.
day, when I really, really, really focused and like, wouldn't say meditated, but like really like looked at where I came from, I'm like, I'm still doing a fun thing. I'm still playing baseball, like can't, I knew I wasn't going to go pro. Like, and I know that's maybe to some people saying, well, that mindset right off the bat says you're not going to go pro. Well, I mean, it's a tough sport to do it. And I also don't know if I wanted to go that far, right? And put that much sacrifice into it, because I think I had other goals, other things I wanted to sacrifice for. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a very, this is one of the 6 dozen ways I failed in my life or more, but it was a fun journey to overcome that for sure.
Oh yeah. Fells, what you got?
Well, so mine's definitely more of a personal level. My like iconic failure in my life, I'm just gonna dive right in to that one. So my biggest failure is when I decided to change careers, and I did it kind of more out of emotional state. So what was currently happening just drove me to quit a job that I was working at for years and years, and I was established, and I had seniority, I had respect, everything that was building me up to kind of coast me through life. I'd been through some stuff before, but this was the one place in the position that made me feel good, and I knew I was successful at it. And then when certain things happened and I decided, you know what, I'm done, I'm not going to put up with this, I made a very huge career change. And it was a pay change, it was a field change. I was just, and I had discussions with, my wife at the time. We kind of worked it out together and decided, this is going to be better for me. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong, playing the results, but that's kind of what ended up and sending me in a spiral of being lost in my life and not knowing exactly how to get out of it. And then it put me in a pretty deep depression and not knowing exactly how to get out of it because my routine of this is the one thing that was holding me together through all my other failures was I was successful at this. For whatever reason, I decided to get out of it. Not quite sure, but hey, I have to deal with it and I have to figure it out. It took a while for me to figure it out, and I made a lot of mistakes along that path. But the biggest success story is that I ended up acknowledging it and figuring out exactly why I had failed and having to really take a deeper look into myself. What had caused this, XYZ, why I had failed, how I'm going to learn from that, and accepting it. Accepting the fact that I had failed so badly that I'm going to have to look myself in the mirror and get past this point. And that's one of the biggest things in my life now. It's like one of my biggest accomplishments. At the time, it was a huge failure. And I would always look at myself as like, how could you let this happen? How could you let things spiral out of control? You know, you can't even support your family like you are accustomed to. All that. I mean, that'll play a huge role into, you know, a provider that can't provide anymore. Like what's your role at that point? There's the obvious answer. I mean, there's so much more to it than being able to do that. But that's something that you know, kind of built yourself up to and took pride in it. And then once that was stripped away, you feel very little. And you feel like I've let everyone down, even though nobody around you is saying that to you. It's a battle within that you've let yourself down. And that's the biggest thing that I had to take out of it is that no one else around me was saying this. And looking back at it, they never did. They were supporting me, but I was beating myself up over and over and over and over to the point that I let it drive myself crazy. And that same support system helped pull me out of it. And I mean, those are some hard times, and it still affects me a little bit, you know, from time to time. But then I have those reminders, not only my family but myself. That's just like, hey, take a look back, what you've been through, and what you dealt with. Like this is nothing. This is a speed bump. You went over Mount Everest earlier. Like this is easy.
Yeah, this isn't. Yeah, there's nothing what you've already been through in the past, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm. But it just prepares you a lot for what's coming up, and then also prepares you to pass it on, you know, to your kids and teach them the same lessons, and let them know, hey, it's you'll get through it. You'll find a way to get through it, and if you need any help, just you know, take a look in the mirror and talk to yourself about it because it's gonna be a rough one, but you'll get through it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it kind of ties a little bit, you know, kind of what Bug was saying a little bit, like, you know, you gotta figure it out. Like you get knocked down, and you gotta figure it out. Like there's, you know, there's always gonna be little obstacles in your way, you know, and whether that's, hey, you were riding high with your job, you know, thought it was smooth, Bugs winning all these championships, D1 athletes surrounding him, you know, and then, you know, you kind of get knocked back down to earth at some point or another. Like it's gonna happen. Everybody.
It's very humbling. And at the time, it looks very much like a failure, but in the bigger picture, it's just a very humbling that life can knock you down. But if you just choose to view it as poor me, poor me, poor me, then it's going to continue to knock you down. If you don't choose to take a lesson out of it and learn from it and try and grow from it and apply it to future, then you're constantly going to be getting beat down.
Constantly. And you're never going to get out. That's kind of what I say a lot. You know, catch a little grief for it sometimes. Sometimes I don't. But some people agree. But that's why I, was pointing out earlier what caught my attention so much about, Bug's little story about checking off the boxes. Like, you get knocked down and you're going to get smacked right in the fucking face. Life is going to hit you out of nowhere, and it's going to happen all the time. And it's not going to stop. Some people say that there is, that's just how it is all the time with slight, ups and good times, but, that's just one of the things. Like, if you wait, this too shall pass. The good times will pass and the bad times. But in order for the bad times to stop, though, I feel like you almost got to take that same shit you were saying, Bug. Like, I'm going to check this off. Like, all right, I got fucking knocked down. Life. But I'm going to fucking hit back. And guess what? I'm going to check this box. I'm going to check that box. And if you, I feel like if you don't do that, though, and it's not going to happen right away, it might take you get knocked down fucking 5 times, like you're saying, like, and it's good to, like you're saying, to have a good support system. But I feel like if you don't check those boxes and you're like, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm the best at this category and hit life back, it's going to keep you down and you're going to fucking stay there forever. Unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah. And there's some things you can't control, right? Like I'm saying when I'm taking a situation where like I could you control the controllables, right? Control the controllables and everything else will either work out or it won't. Like you can't control everything. In a perfect world, it's we don't live in that world, right? So control what you can control. And unfortunately, the funny thing is, and I can get into it later, but like I had a really good opportunity in my sophomore year. That not spoiler alert, I got dislocated both shoulders in the course of a season, basically. And basically for the most part, my season, my not career, but like to play at that level was basically done. But I basically got to the point where I impressed, we had a I'm kind of getting forward because I got a question. I'm sorry. I'm rambling. I'm going to take a step back. I want to ask Steve, I want to ask you a question real quick. And then maybe I can get into this a little bit more, or we can switch topics. It doesn't matter. But Steve, you're obviously very, knowledgeable. You're a successful guy, but sure, you've had your own set of failures. But if you had to look back, the brief little bit of my story that now, right? Only taking it for face value. If I'm coming into college at 18, what would you give 18-year-old Bug advice going into that situation? And it could be at any point, right? It could be right off the rip, the moment I step foot on campus, or any point of that process that I went through. What would you give 18-year-old me advice on? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I can defer, but
well, honestly, the way you kind of described your college baseball experience, with ending in injury, right? That's I can relate to that because mine was the same way, right? So I stepped into college football with Brad. Eventually my knees got so bad that I was done. I've had multiple surgeries. They're still bad. It's just one of those things that I was not meant to do that. And so the advice that I would give you is the exact same advice that I would give me, in that kind of what you were saying, control what you can control, right? The days that you do get to play, you work as hard as you possibly can, whether that's in practice, whether that's in a game, but you leave nothing out there at every opportunity. And because looking back, I didn't do that, right? I didn't take my college football experience as far as it could have. I could have, came back after knee surgery and kept playing and done but I didn't work hard enough at it. And so it's kind of the opposite of yours in that, you did it. You took that setback and you challenged yourself and you checked those boxes. And so the advice that I would truly give is that don't take any day for granted, because every day that you're out there that you get to play could be the very last time that you go out and play. I mean, whatever happens that day, make sure that you leave everything out there and that you didn't hold yourself back in any way, whether that was from fear of, you're going from being a big fish in a little pond to a little fish in a big pond. Right now, you're the little guy. There's 120 other guys out there on the field with you. It's not the same where when you stepped on the field, everybody knew what you were capable of, right? And you were above, your skill level was above those that you played with and played against. When you get to college, it's the other way around. You walk in and you're typically, unless you're, a guy playing below his level, you're walking in to, wow, man, everybody here is bigger than me. Everybody here is faster than me, stronger than me, and so really it's leave it out there, and then don't let fear be an anchor for you. Face that fear and challenge yourself. Because if you don't, you'll look back on that time with, oh man, what could have been, and then you become that fat guy in the bar with his Letterman's jacket on telling football. Unless you learn from it, and the next time you get an opportunity, you actually do challenge yourself, and so
yeah,
that's the way that. But yeah, that I think that would be solid advice for an 18-year-old.
That's good. Kid. I like that.
Steve, how many times did you wear your Letterman's jacket after?
Yeah. You tell stories, buddies? Little sob stories?
I came back and immediately went to fucking work, man.
But on the same note, it's like control the controllables.
Yeah.
You also have to understand to not let the uncontrollables affect you. Because you can control, but you can also let the uncontrollables affect you. You have to figure out a way to detach that from anything that you have control over.
Well, so truly the only thing you have control over is your mind.
Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing else. You don't even have full control over your body.
Yeah, knees are weak, Steve. Arms are heavy.
Yeah. Old no-knee Steve, man.
Shoulders are popping out already.
That's right. Your body will betray you. The only thing that you can truly control is your mind.
Yeah, watch out for them window wells. They'll tear your knees. That's a story that I have.
And break your arms. So just be careful.
Yeah, but that's actually a great point, and I 100% agree with that. You can only control what you control, and that's you, but your mind's a tough one. It's a tough one to conquer. I mean, it's an ongoing battle. You got your vices, you got your doubt, you got, all these different things. So, you said it just a second ago, Steve, which kind of segues into the next thing I was going to, bring up a little bit was fear. And fear is one of the biggest things in life, even though it's something that hasn't came to pass yet. It hasn't happened. It's a fear of something happening that you might not like the outcome of. And as crazy as that is, I mean, if you just say it out loud and just think about it, it hasn't happened, but it could happen. But like that's what fear is. It's just not. It's not a real thing. It's just your mind saying, "Well, trying to protect yourself. Well, this could happen. You better watch it, right?" And that's one of the biggest things to overcome. And Bugga, I'm afraid to ask this. Sounded like you just had no fear, but when you're going in. But I mean, I don't know about you. Maybe not fear, but you're definitely going to have 128 people that you have to compete against to fight for a starting job. That's a lot of people, to be honest. And like fear can play tricks on you. It can lead you down different stuff. It can make you not play up to your ability or, speak correctly or give a speech or, talk to people, call the right play, make the right throw. It can play all these factors. So I guess where's the point at, or do you use any fear as like fuel, or what factors does it play where you have, you want to achieve your goals? It doesn't have to be with your sports or, your baseball, your 60-yard dashes, but,
Yeah.
I
mean,
make it about it.
I run 20 extra yards, not a big deal, folks. But it doesn't have to be, but
I just kept on running.
40,
Yeah.
60s, Forrest Gump. But sorry. So like where do you? I mean, it could be achieving goals or like hitting something that you really wanted to do. Like I'm curious how fear played a factor in all that.
So
if any, big dog.
So do you want to hear the lighter tone and stick with the baseball path, or do you want me to get a little? This was what I was prefacing before the show tonight. Was I could get a little not darker, but like a little more somber, I guess is a better way to put it, on a completely different topic, or just keep it baseball related and how that experience played out.
It's whatever you want, man.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, I would say maybe dive into the fucking deep end. I feel like that's. I don't know. I feel like that. Oh, yeah, it's a deep pool. Buddy. Scared of the dark? No. I feel like that. People can relate a little bit to like college and stuff. And we might get into that a little bit later. Me and Steve went to school, and we didn't finish school. We'll get into that maybe a little later, but. I don't know. Every couple, I don't know what's happening. He hasn't talked to me about this at all. So, but I'm all for it. I feel like you're going to relate more to people. Maybe it'll relate to a wider audience, or maybe it'll resonate more. Especially, if we bring it back full circle.
Yeah, there you go. I'll go that route. I'm comfortable talking about it, and everything. And it's. I think. Maybe you and P maybe know like the surface of it and everything, but one of the biggest things, and I'm still dealing with it today, which is why I think it's very relative, and I hope this helps someone. I really do, or even someone like. I'll preface this: if someone hears this part of the show, and they can relate to it, or they're going through something similar, or they've dealt with a similar situation, or possibly approaching it, more than happy for you to reach out, and chat about it. Right. Like if you're watching the podcast, message us, or I know it's going to sound corny. You can email us at untamedentertainment, the number 1 at gmail.com. So something I deal with, I'm dealing with this right now. So I think P&B, you might know this, but, let's see. I guess it's been about a year and a half now. I lost my dad. So my dad was like my coach growing up, and he was like the biggest supporter of our family. He worked his ass off for his family. Like I'm telling you, work ethic, like I strive to achieve someday. And my dad was the greatest, right? And I think we all, have that person in your life, whether it's your dad, a friend, an uncle, a coworker, or whatever, that you really look up to. But my dad passed away, and the sad thing was, like, it was expected because he had Alzheimer's. He had that. He had a couple other, Parkinson's. He just got fucking slapped with everything. little bit of cancer that like he overcame and stuff like that, like minor, but he got slapped with everything. A guy who worked his ass off, like 2 years into retirement, and then shit hits the fan. Like not even 2 years probably. So basically his last, say 4 or 5 years of his life that we knew he was diagnosed, like you watch your hero deteriorate and become someone that, you know, they don't even know who you are anymore, you know? And it was still one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with. And seeing him hours before he passed was like terrible, you know? And my fear is I could be that person someday, right? Like, I don't know how to prevent it. I don't know if you can prevent it. I don't think you can prevent it. I wish there was a magic pill. But seeing what my mom had to go through handling that situation, and then seeing the guy that I thought was unbreakable, like break, my struggle was I never got to talk to him about it. He wasn't someone who wanted to talk about it. And my fear is like, what if that happens to me? What if that in my, you know, late 50s, early 60s, I get hit with that? And I think about it like, my wife worries about it. I got 2 little kids, and she's like, it literally triggered us. And I know I'm having a beer right now, so it's kind of contradictory, but like literally triggered us to like literally think about like everything health related. And I was like we talked about, I played sports my entire life. I played into college. Like I've always felt healthy and active and whatever. And so was my dad. And that's what scares me. He was the same way. And he was even like smarter in some of the things he did than I did at my age. So dealing with that every day, wondering if I forget something, I'm like, oh, is this a sign? Like, if I don't remember something, is that a sign? Like, you have all these triggers that are now on my mind daily. And I'm saying daily. Like, it's a constant mind F on, is this a sign? And I'm only, okay, if you watch her TikTok today, I'm 34. Okay. I get it. I'm in my mid 30s. I'm trying to make a little light of the conversation. But
We'll give you a pass.
You're dusty.
thanks, buddy.
It's fine.
And it's, you know, it's still fresh. It's only been a year and a half that he passed away, and I still deal with like that part of it and losing that person that would meant a lot to me. And like that person doesn't get to watch my kids grow up and doesn't watch to see if I become the man he thought I was going to be. But the biggest thing is the fear of like what the future has. Like, and it goes back to Steve, something you said is, you know, every chance you get to prove yourself or be the best person you can be, like take it, right? That's the mentality I'm trying to take on right now is,
One life.
you know, I would love to retire tomorrow and have the retirement that my dad never got. But obviously I can't do that, unfortunately. I'm trying to find ways to do that. And that might be something we talk about down the road. But, you know, it's like, man, how do I maximize my life and my time with my wife and my kids and my friends and family, like while I'm still here, or while I'm still not only here, but like mentally present. And the other part, see, that really like hits is like, you're right. Like one of the biggest things that you can control is your mindset on things. But what happens when that goes away? What happens to the one thing you can control is taken away from you?
And it becomes an uncontrollable. So
Yeah.
you can't worry about that.
Fuck.
Like it's odd. It's odd. And this is the reason why I wanted to jump into this, is because you guys were making points in relation to my baseball story that I'm like, holy shit, this is stuff that I'm thinking about on this whole other side of my life, right? And it's like you don't know when you're gone, right? Like, I mean, you can get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? Or what, something could happen. Like that's true.
Snail touches.
But yeah, I know that's possible. That doesn't scare me. I'm not afraid of that. If that happens, like, well, fuck me, right? It's what I know could possibly happen. And it's that mind F of like, would you like to know the date, the time, whatever that you pass away?
Hell no.
No.
And then you live your
Hell
life up
no.
to that point? Or would you rather just know how you die?
I don't want to know either.
No,
But think about that. Like if I knew that I and this is for me, so it's a little different. If I knew that if I had the option of choosing one or the other, I'm not sure which one I would choose, because if I choose how I die, then I might know if it was to Alzheimer's. But if I choose when, I might say, "Oh, I lived to 80," but is my last 5 years of my life, I'm not present. That's not living.
That's almost. I mean, if you view it that way, I can see what you're saying. Um, but you basically just changed your time of death to 5 years earlier.
Well,
You know what I'm
and I say
saying?
that because that's about the time that when we were officially knew my dad had it to when he actually passed away. Like I saw some signs before, like something wasn't right. And some
Mhm.
people live longer, right? Some people live
Yeah.
longer. They could live 10 years diagnosed, and like they just have a lesser version of it, and it is what it is. And they're functional for longer than maybe my dad was, or less than he was.
Yeah, I think it varies case by case. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. So like that's the mindset for me. If I was proposed that question, I used to think like the other side of it. Just let me know the date, time, the hour, so I can live my entire effing life how I want up until that point. But now I'm kind of like, oh, shit, if I can know if I pass away from this, like kind of would like to know. like, you know. So yeah,
Well,
it's weird. It's a
that's
weird,
a tough one, Bug. Right?
yeah.
You always come up with the tough questions, but when you said that first, I was actually leaning the other way. So if I know we talked about this previous episodes a little bit, like I mean, even this snail, like you're always looking over your shoulder. If you know how you die, and you're like, hey, I die this way.
Mm.
You might be like, oh, hey guys, I can't go skydiving, or I can't jump off a high dive or whatever, because like I might fucking die. This might be my time. But if you know when or whatever, I don't know if you can choose, or I guess how the question was specified, but you know, you're gonna die regardless, right? If you
Yeah.
knew, like, you're like, hey, I'm gonna die at 55, like, and you knew that, you would do everything you possibly could to live your life to the fullest until you were 55. And I don't think there would be any fear or anything in your mind. Yeah, I think it would just be pure drive, at least for me in my current state of mind. And if I knew like how, like you don't know when, it could be 2 years, it could be 20 years, like the same as now. And maybe you could put it away and you're like, I don't want to think about it. But I
Right.
think it would constantly be there if you knew for a fact that's how you died. I think it would always be on your mind, like you're saying, like the Alzheimer's like is in your mind, right? You're like, hey, I could get it, and like that. I feel like that kind of stuff can really hold you back. But if you knew, like, hey, 55, yeah, it's young, but fuck, if I'm not gonna bust my ass and do every single thing I want to do, and for the next 20, 25 years, you're fucking dead wrong out of your goddamn mind. You're
Yeah.
guaranteed you wouldn't be serving, and hanging out at McDonald's, or, sitting in your buddy's basement, fucking just smoking weed all day, not giving a fuck. You'd be like, fuck, I'm getting going right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that would just change the mindset of like what you're doing. I mean, we've all had those moments. I guarantee we all have. Where you're just sitting on the couch, sitting on your phone, and it's just like what am I doing? I could be doing this, this, and this. Or you have something weighing on your mind that you're not really prepared to do, but you're doing something else as a distraction. It's
Yeah.
like just get up and do it, and not to be unsympathetic to the point you're trying to make, but because I can tell what you're saying, and
Mm-hmm.
especially your story kind of ties into it. But if it's like know the exact date that you're gonna die, or know what you die from, it's I almost view it the same way, because if you know what you die from, you're gonna hyper focus on you know how long you have when you're diagnosed with this, and then when you end up dying from it, so that becomes your death date that you're gonna focus on. The beginning of Alzheimer's signs, and so that's your date. And then every day after that, you're just like, okay, it hasn't happened yet, until it happens. But it changes the way that you live your life. If you just take that at face value and apply that from day one, then there should be no regrets.
Yeah, and I think the only reason that I've questioned, like, I was always know the time and date kind of person. And I think the only reason I question that is because there's a point, it could be very different how it hits you, like we were saying, like how that disease hits you. But I think for me is like I could have it for 5 years, for 10 years, whatever. There's a point where you're not living. Like, you know, so like when that point hits me, I don't know anymore. And I'm saying this as if I fingers crossed I don't have to go down this path, right? Like I would, by the way, I would not wish that disease on my worst enemy. Like it is terrible. But the point being is say I'm 60 and they're like, here's the news, right? And there's other disease. I know cancer's an ass. Like there's so many things out there that are just like absolute terrible, right? And I think with this, the reason it got me thinking about it differently is the only reason is 61. I could like lose a lot of who I was and what I know. And, I had conversations where my dad was talking to his brother and it was me sitting there. Right. So like you start to have those moments and it's like, wow, this really sucks, And if that becomes me, at what point am I no longer me? If that makes sense. Like I'm not making the same jokes I used to. I'm not able to have the same conversations with the people I love like I used to. And to me, I'm not saying you're dead at that point because obviously you're still there. And like we took care of my dad for years, in that state. But that date of when I do pass away, like, is not the same in my mind as someone that may not have that unfortunate situation, right? And you get to a point where yeah, it's just tough, man. It's tough. It really changed my thought process, and I'm still not 100% sure because I get your point, P, and I don't disagree with that. It's kind of the mind f, and if you had to answer that question, you know, 10 years ago, I would have 100% been, just give me the date and time, and I'll live my fucking life like to the max and be the greatest person I can be to other people and leave like a legacy behind that people thought I was like caring and giving and a family man and whatever, I still want to do that,
How you
but
want to be remembered.
yeah, I
think that's what's weighing on your mind a lot. I think you nailed it. Is this how they're going to remember me? Is when I've, lost it and I can't remember, my jokes aren't landing and, whatnot. Like if you're like, hey, well, I want to be remembered a certain way. And because I feel like that's a lot of what life is like leaving your mark or, things you accomplish. And, I don't know if, I guess that's a, can I just say that's a fucking tough ass situation. Also my grandma has Alzheimer's. She got diagnosed, a while ago. It's slowly going, but it's vicious and you can tell, she still knows me, like the long-term memory stays, but like the short-term memory is shot a lot. Like you have conversations, I'll go down and see her. Like when she comes and stays at my dad's, I'll go visit and we'll have conversations and I'll go over the next day and we'll have the exact same conversations. And, it is tough, man. I can see it. And, same thing, Bug. My dad, he's a big dude, and he's always been such a role model in my life, always been there, always, tough dude. Like just, life hits and he hits fucking hard back and he's,
yeah.
And, and it has crossed my mind a few times. Like, what if he got it, and my grandma's, I think she's 80, right around there. So, I don't know when. I guess you can't really choose, like you're saying, but like it's crossed my mind. Like if he got it, like it would be really, really tough. And it does make you kind of sit back and look and kind of cherish different moments and think of them and look at them different. But like it is there, and it's hard not to like think about, and it's probably not on your mind like every second, but I'm sure it comes in and out, like comes in and out of my mind. I'm like, fuck, especially when shit gets brought up, and you're like, Jesus, it's a thing, and it could be, my thing. Who knows? Also, they relate a lot of this cancer and Alzheimer's to sugar, by the way, but we'll touch on that here in a bit. But
Well, yeah, and,
A weird
go
way
ahead.
just like to, I don't know, let's say that moment does happen and you find that news out that Big Rob's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I don't know, just maybe just reassure him all the time that this is the person that I know. This is how I'm gonna remember you, and maybe even keep like a journal and let him know this is my dad. This is how I remember you, so that he doesn't lose it. And because I mean, I know how your dad is, and I know that he wouldn't want to be remembered in the his last struggling moments. I mean, nobody wants to be remembered in those. That's not who they were. Just remember me for who I was and who I built my whole life being. That's I worked my life off my whole life for this. Like don't remember me my weakest moments. Remember me my strongest moments. And thank you for being there in my weakest moment because I needed you.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think that's what I would do. I mean, especially, now that I actually think about it, if that did happen, yeah, I think that's something you'd have to do just to reassure them. Because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you think about anything, like you're going to remember the good times. You're not going to remember all, any tough times or anything like that. You're going to be like, no, like, remember this story or, remember this happened or whatever. Like, you just remember all the great shit and why they are, like a hero to you or whatever, like, or a big part of your life or whatever, these people may be. And as tough as it is, like, you're going to remember so many of the good times. You're not going to remember, tough shit and like all this stuff. And I know it's easier said than done. And you're like, fuck, going through it's going to be rough. And, my heart fucking feels for you, man. It's definitely a tough one. And, you're strong for pushing through that, man. And
You're strong for bringing it up, dude. I wasn't expecting that. I would have told you stick to baseball, but I
Yeah,
appreciate you bringing it up.
I think, but we got to look at the. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say something to think about is you could say that that's what you're going to do and that's how you're going to remember them, but until you see that person in that deteriorated state, you don't know, because it took years for me to not see my brother laying in a hospital bed on a breathing machine as my only fucking view of him.
Yeah.
That was the last thing I saw. That's the last thing that it took a very long time to see past that. So even though, I can look back now and see all those good moments and remember those good things, in the time that it was from the time that it happened to breathe, a couple years later, that's the only way I remembered him. And it almost, I remembered certain things, but, and so, yeah, you can always say that that's how you're going to react, but, Mike Tyson's, you get until you get punched in the mouth. That is the ultimate punch in the fucking mouth. It's seeing that person that you look up to in that way, or in, another way, another person that you look up to, not necessarily dad, but a older brother, whatever that person is, see him in that state that you never thought that you would see him in.
Yeah. And
you have no idea how you're going to react and what that is going to do to you and how that's going to change you, because it will change you. It'll change your mindset, your viewpoints. It will make you Well, it'll make you change your decisions on certain things. You know, like my sister-in-law Shalay, she died of cancer as well, and when she was on her death, you know, I mean, it was happening that day. Everybody was going to see her, and I just went, you know what? I remember Shalay a certain way. The only way that I'm going to fucking remember her is that way. I'm not going to go see her at 70 pounds, bald on a breathing machine. No way. I can't see another person that way for that long again. And then that turns into regret, right? So you turn that into regret that, oh man, I didn't see her, and
No.
that's just the balance of life, right? Is now if it happens again, how would I respond? And that is fear, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. That's the $1 million question. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
You know, like, how do you react? And
That's
And-
real fear.
there, I don't, shitty as it is, like, there's not really any, way you're going to know how you're going to react. And, I can say all these things like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this. But when I say that, the only reason, like, I say that in my mind is like almost like prepare myself. Like, if you're going to go into a fight or a game, you're going to practice, you're going to prepare a little bit, right? So at least you can maybe think the best way you can to, like, handle it or react the best way you can. And, I know that it's not going to be the same or anything in my life for that fact. Like, I can say all I want and be like, hey, I'm going to do this with, my kid on the way and, all this stuff. And I know that. I know things are going to be different. I understand that. I just do it so I can prepare myself and, like, consciously think about some shit like, hey, you need to try to do this, or, you need to think of it this way, or try to at least. So when it hits you, it's not as harsh, or, you're able to handle a little bit better.
Some of the best preparation is taking advice and listening to stories from people who've been through it, because you can prepare yourself on how you would think you'd react to a situation, but when you actually listen to stories and like feel the emotion, like behind what Bug was saying, I felt it. And that alone, just that little moment, you can better prepare yourself for it. Because I mean, my heart goes out to you guys. I haven't had to go through a loss like that. And so I can sit here and kind of, game film, but when that happens and that other team comes out and they're, way more prepared and faster and stronger than I thought they were,
Yeah.
I'm not prepared. And then until it happens to you, you're not going to know that moment until it happens to you. And that's a huge lesson on life. Like you feel like you're ready for it. You feel like you're, prepared all the time until it happens. It's not even going to compare to the real thing. And so, I mean, for you guys to even come here and talk about that speaks volumes. It means you've had that whole journey that I haven't had to go through, to have it happen, the memories, the time, the healing, healing is a loose term because you're constantly going to be reminded of it your whole life, but to accept and deal with it,
Yeah.
my hat's off to you.
And that's one of the biggest obstacles you can run into in life. And trying to overcome that and just speaking about that is huge. And, that definitely means that you've processed a lot of it. And, maybe not all of it, and maybe it never will, but you've processed enough to share and to be okay and, to, like, get through the moment and talk about it. And it's always good to talk about shit because you might hear other people's stories, or, I'm sure this might even be liberating right now, actually, like throwing it out there. And I actually had a question, same thing, pertains to the same thing. So my question was, like, pertaining to the fear, right, that you might get it because you saw all this stuff with, your dad go through it, and that's heartbreaking and miserable, and wouldn't wish that on anyone. But
Yeah.
so my question with the fear is like, so you want to be remembered a certain way. Like, are you fearful that, your wife won't look at you the same, or that you won't have enough experiences with her, or like that your kids, like saw you too early doing that and, send it back. I mean, I know this is digging into deep.
No,
in,
you're
and,
good. You're good. You're good.
I don't want to push too much,
I'm-
but like,
I'm good. I'm
is
good.
my curiosity just, reaching this peak right now with everything?
Yeah, I think the when you see someone that you feel is so strong, like hit that level, and Steve, to your point, like, you know, my like I know my dad probably didn't want me to see him on his last day, right? Like in the state that he was, because exactly what you said. Um, and you want to be remembered. Like when I was 18, his mom passed away, my grandma, and I kind of knew something was going on. I'm like, why are they at like this hour of the night going to see my grandma? I know she's in the hospital. And I'm like, oh, it hit me. I was like, I want to go with you guys. And like, we're not gonna allow you to go. Like I was still too young, and they're like, we want you to remember your grandma the way that you remember your grandma. I was like, okay. Like, and then I struggled. Like I was kind of pissed. I was like, I want to say my goodbyes. And I wasn't ready for that. And at 30, what was I, 32, 31, 31, 32, whatever, it was still hard, like to see my dad at that spot. And I, you know, not to tug at things a little bit, but like was having my last conversation with him, and, a little tear came out, and I was like, from him. And I was like, I think he knows. I think he knows who I am at this moment. And, we're accepting like this state, so I think it's very tough, but you're never ready for it. And you never, I had 4 years to plan for it, and I still wasn't ready for it. Right. Um, but to think about where I could go in my life, right, and what I could do for my kids and my wife and my family, if anything, it makes me want to be just like, one, it's a very hard like ladder to climb to be where my dad was at and like what he did. But at the same time, I know that if I'm not trying to be the best I can every day, then what am I really doing? Like
Mhm.
life is precious. It's like there's so many like cliches that come into my mind. It's like, shit, this stuff's kind of true, And
Isn't
I
that
could
funny?
like, and like you said, Brad, like, okay, am I having too much sugar? What can I do to reduce this risk? Or maybe someone told me it's gonna happen, but if you do X, Y, Z, instead of hitting you at 60, it'll hit you at 80. Bet your ass I'm doing that. The fear is, I don't know all that. I know some of it, but I don't really know if I have one less beer, one less soda, or I run one more mile, it's going to add a life or take a life away, or add a year or take a year away, or whatever the case may be. So, and I'm still going through this. So don't get me wrong. I don't have all the answers. I do highly encourage anybody listening to this. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it if you're going through anything similar. And Brad, I know you are too, going through something similar. But I could literally drive myself insane wondering if this choice is going to affect that, and that choice is going to affect this, if it's going to help, if it's going to hurt. And you could drive yourself insane doing that. And I'm not there yet, but my path to overcoming that fear is knowing I still want to be happy. I still want to enjoy my life within reason. Like, I don't need to, kill myself trying to work out and eat everything that's perfect for me, like every day. Like, I want to enjoy some of the simpler things in life, but I'm not going to go overboard. I'm not going to think I'm invincible. I'm not going to think that, you know, shit doesn't affect me, right? Like I'm not 15 anymore, 20 years old anymore. Like, you can kind of feel the creaks and the aches and the things you do something you haven't done in a while. It's like, oh man, I'm sore and I'm not used to that. Like, I know I'm getting older, but I'm struggling to acknowledge that. I'm getting there. I'm talking to a therapist. I do that kind of thing. I talk to you guys. I mean, I literally was having this conversation. I know I missed 2 weeks ago. I was in Mexico. Literally had this conversation with my wife. Like, this is therapeutic for me. Like this podcast,
Well, it's
and
good.
we could be talking about the greatest athletes of all time, but like,
Goddamn right.
and not talk about real issues. It's still therapeutic.
So on that
So
note,
yeah.
no, go ahead if you need to finish up.
No, all I was going to say was, so I think it's the reason I wanted to talk about this because, like, I'm not gonna lie, I've been choking up here and there, but it's like, it's okay to like be real about what's affecting you,
Yeah.
I've been choking up
and
too.
I know I'm not, the appearance of that grizzly, like man's man, right? Like I know I'm not, we joke, I can't grow facial, like
Big
you look at
beard.
like, yeah, big beard, like,
We're not all Steve.
tall, big muscles, all this kind of stuff. Like,
God
I know I'm
damn,
not a
Steve.
man's man by definition, but it's okay to like have vulnerabilities, and it's okay to be weak, and it's okay to like be sad, and it's okay to lean on people. You don't have to do life yourself. Life is not a journey that you take by yourself. You may not get married, you may not have kids, you may not do any of that, but you have friends, you have family. Maybe you lost all your family, but you have people in your life that are supposed to take you through this journey with you. And your ups, maybe they're down times, and you lean on each other at that. And I think that's my biggest thing that I'm trying to like, I practice this thing, or I'm sorry, I preach a lot of this stuff, and I need to really practice it myself. And that was one of my biggest struggles is I was preaching a whole lot of shit. I wasn't practicing it. And that's where I'm at right now in my mentality is I really need to practice what I'm preaching. So
On a very small scale. I mean, it's definitely not comparable to your situation, but I have been dealing with a very similar, and it was weird that it came across to me that I'm almost in a mourning state, is that I just found out that my dad is moving away. And I have a very small family. It's only my dad, my grandma, and my aunt. Those are the only family that's around me. Other than that, I don't have any family. But my dad it's my dad. He's the one who's been there for me. He's the one that I look up to, like very highly. He's always there for me. And they kind of dropped this news on me a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago. And he's helped me through all the stuff that I've been through that I was talking about earlier. And in his own little weird way, he's just he's very much like me, so I can relate to him. And he's the only other like guy in my family. So when I found this news out, I instantly started doing the same thing. Like, well, what could I have done differently? Like, am I wasting my time now? And then as time passes by, like this last weekend, I went over to his house because I made it a point, to spend more time with him before he goes and leaves. And he's only moving like 7 hours away. And I felt very pathetic for viewing it as I'm mourning it, but I'm just like, it's tearing me up. And so I'm spending more time with him, and then I go to his house and I see the boxes, and I'm helping him pack stuff up, and it's just becoming very real. So I have this, time to spend with him, but now it's all more like a shoving him out the door type of thing, helping him leave my life. So, but when he's gone and over, just 7 hours away, it's going to feel very, very vulnerable. Like I don't have that guy I can, just shoot over to his house, and if I have a question, he's always available on the phone, and that's where I feel very, foolish, especially listening to your story. You've had time to prepare for it, and then you had a final goodbye. And that is way bigger than what I'm dealing with. And the way that you're handling it is, you know, it's admirable. And the way I'm dealing with it, compared to what I thought, I never thought I was going to have to deal with this little situation. And the way I'm dealing with it is very hard to me because it's tearing me up.
Can I
Just because he's going away. That's
and
it.
can I comment on that actually,
Yes,
if you don't
please,
mind?
because
S-
I'd like some insight.
Well, so here's the thing, and I get we're talking very different situations, but one thing I've learned is like, and this is speaking from experience, is you don't need to downplay what you're going through, that it's not valid, right? You know,
Mhm.
and I'm going to say this because I could see, like, if we were this massive podcast and people listen, you're talking about someone who lost their dad and someone who's moving away but still in your life. I get it. They're different, and we don't have to discount that, but that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have feelings, that you're not allowed to have, thoughts on it. And I think that, you know, everybody goes through a situation and handles it differently. There's people that probably gone through this very similar situation to me and have handled it way better. And people have probably handled it way worse. Like, I don't know, but like, I used to do this where I thought, well, man, there's someone out there that has it worse than me. Like, I shouldn't complain. I shouldn't complain. I think it's okay, like, regardless of what hits you, let it hit you and let you, like, learn from that, right? Let it hopefully on the other side make you stronger. And that's what I'm hoping happens to me. And I feel like, you know, that's the path I'm hoping to go down, right? But just because, like, your situation's different, you're still allowed to have your feelings. Don't say you're not. Like, oh, it's not that. Don't discount it. Don't say it's not that big a deal. Like, you know, pain, sadness, suffering, you know, disappointment, it comes in all shapes and sizes. So to me, absorb that. Like I can't say, like, it's going to be amazing on the other side, and him living 7 hours away is going to be a blessing, like, by any means, but like, cuz I don't know that, but it's okay to be mad, sad, frustrated, all that kind of stuff. So I guess the point being, and I'll throw it back to you guys, is, don't discount your feelings. Don't say because it's not the same as what I'm going through that you're not allowed to have the same feelings of bigger or smaller or anywhere in between. It's okay to feel what you feel, man. It's 100% okay to feel what you feel. No one can tell you
Well,
otherwise.
yeah, and because like I've talked to my wife about exactly what's going on, and like in the moment, it's so raw. I'm just telling her exactly how I feel about the whole situation and whatnot. And then I hear a story like yours, and it almost kind of discounts mine. But I need to just realize that yeah, I still felt those feelings, and I still do feel those feelings, and then I'm gonna have to be upfront with them and let him know about them. That's for damn sure. Because one of the biggest things that came up was I felt like I had been selfish in my life and just trying to deal with my own situation over and over and over to the point where I finally have gotten myself to where I'm back to living life and not worrying and not stressing and at a very happy place in my life. And that's where I would love for him to spend time with me in my life because I'm available, emotionally available, and just ready to do that. And then that news hit, and it was just like, damn, like I finally got here, and you're moving on, and this is the version of me that I would like to have spent time with you. And so I have regret immediately of just like, why couldn't I have gotten there earlier so that I could have spent more time with you? Because now the time that we're going to be able to spend is just going to be visits, not just like a father son type of come over and do this with me, come over and do this, so I'll help you with this. Now it's going to be like a weekend, if that, like let's go visit. And it's a hard concept for me to grasp because I've never had to do that with him. He's been the one constant in my life that has been there, and I haven't had to do that with. And now I'm gonna have to switch gears that I've kind of got myself, mentally in a right position to now have to deal with the other the other guy, the only other, my father, the guy I look up to. Now I have to
The guy.
Yeah, the guy. Now I have to view you as like a person I see every, 4 or 5 times a year. It's just weird, and I honestly I don't know how to approach it, and I'm still struggling with it because like he just told me today that his house sold, and I'm like, fuck,
Oh, wow.
it's getting closer, it's getting closer, like it's happening, and kind of like you said, until that day happens, I mean, obviously smaller scale, but it's still that same mentality for me. It's like once he's loaded up and he's gone, then it turns into a completely different relationship, and a relationship that I don't know exactly how to prepare for, and I'm gonna miss the old relationship and regret that I didn't make more of it.
So, I mean, you could view it that way, as in uh,
Negative.
I guess regret, a negative, not necessarily. I mean, negative, but viewing just as regret and living in the past, right? Or just hearing the way that you say it, and being through, like you said, you haven't suffered a great, a loss in your family. Now, if you look at it as, I regret this, I regret this, the times you do get to see your dad, like spend that time with him, you could either be bummed out that it's only for a period of time, or you can take each time as an opportunity to continue that bond on an even stronger level. Because now you have those opportunities. Yeah, they'll be less, but in a way you could make them mean more.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
It's more dedicated time. It's more of viewing this as yeah, he prepared you to face this challenge. Now you have the opportunity to see him still, right? Just not as often.
Hmm.
But I'm sure Bug is like me, in that the only time I talk to my brother now is when I'm drunk in the garage.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
you could either talk to the ceiling, or you could talk to him. So
And
you have to view that as an opportunity still.
I'll say this because it's funny you say that, and I'd never make light of, like, you know feeling like your life is being turned on. Like, whenever you have something constant, consistent, it's part of you. Like, my wife is like a big, like, change for my wife is like crazy, like so hard for her. And within the last 2 months, we both started new jobs, and like even switching jobs, like, is like it's her like first job change in like 10 plus years. But the crazy thing is, my big thing with my dad was like golf. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes we didn't like always like talk. Like, we would like play catch. We would be involved in sports. We go to a Cardinal game here in St. Louis. We do stuff like it wasn't always like, sometimes it was, but it wasn't always like we have to have these in-depth conversations. Just being together was like good. We'd play golf, we'd catch up, we'd do those things. And honestly, one of my biggest regrets is not doing that more, right? Um, because in my head, I'm like, I could have done more. But
Yeah.
the funny thing is, I just played my first round of golf since my dad passed, like a month or so ago, like give or take. And I was because one of the last things I did with him was play golf before he like couldn't function like physically, and even our last round together was very hard for him. Like he could barely get 9 holes in, and you know, but it is one of those things I was like, I didn't care. I didn't care that I had to let 4 groups play through us. I was like, we're just out here playing golf or what our version is of it today. And after that, it was literally for a year and a half. I didn't pick up a club, like, and that's something I did all the time. Like I love doing it with my buddies, my dad, whatever. And I finally went out with one of my best buddies. Kind of like, I know it sounds so sad, but I was like kind of like nervous about it. I was like, one, I haven't played in forever, and I was always pretty good. So am I going to be good anymore? But then two, like
Allegedly.
I haven't played since two, I haven't played since my dad passed away. Like, and it was pretty therapeutic. Like it sucked at parts because I'm like, I wish I could do this with my dad for another, 20, 30 years, but I can't, but I can at least do that and think he's there with me. Like to your point, like, you're in the garage having beer, talking to your brother. I go pick up a club and go hit the links. And, I would actually, I haven't yet, but I'm actually more apt to like be down to go play by myself and just like think we're playing around together kind of thing. I know it sounds maybe corny to some people, and that's fine. You can judge
Not at
that.
all.
Like I
Not
totally
at
get
all.
like some of that, but like you said, Steve, like sitting in a cart, like by the way, I truly do think about my dad every day. Like there's multiple times throughout my day that I think about him, that I wish he could give me advice on something, wish he could tell me that I'm doing something wrong so I could be better, right? Because he was very good at like noticing different alternatives to ways you did things. But just getting out and playing golf that one time, like I realize I need to do that more because it's very therapeutic, not just like for the selfish reason of you getting away, you're playing golf. And if you like golf, getting away and playing golf is freaking amazing day, afternoon, morning, whatever.
True.
But
It's
yeah, I
the
think
best.
it's a great way to, have something. And I'm looking forward to, my son's still a little young, to have a real game of catch with my son. Super corny as well, stereotypical, but just like I did that so much with my dad. Like so much. And my version of trying to overcome, kind of going back and tying this all in, is I can live with that fear. I can live with it, and I'm still living with it. I'm taking steps to overcome that, and realizing that control what you can control, man. Like still live your life, but control what you can control. The other side of it is like, what am I going to do with my son and my daughter to make sure that they have the best memory of me? To Steve, to your point, I want them to remember me for what I feel like I am. And right now I'm not quite who I think I am. Like I have some shit going on. Like I'm still kind of working through some of that cloud, right, in my head.
I mean, you are
But
who
I'm
you are.
slowly, yeah, I'm slowly getting there. And I want my wife, and who knows? I could live to be 110. Like I could just be like building this all up and it's nothing. But I got to be kind of conscious of like what could happen. And I just want to like each day get a little better, 1% better, so that my wife, my kids have a better memory of me, or more of a memory of me of being that better person. And if I can be even 1% better each day over the course of a year, a decade, whatever time I have left, that's just more I can put into their memory bank and their experiences with me. So that's what I'm trying to use to crush my fear of what I could become. Because, unless someone knocks on my door tomorrow and says, hey, if you do this, it'll completely erase any risk of anything, probably not going to happen. Let's be honest. So like, I'm just trying to do those things that makes the memories and the vision of who I am and who I want to be better.
Yeah, man. Nailed it, Bug.
No.
As always.
So,
It's-
in your situation there, Bug, the opposite of fear for you would be love. The more
Yep.
love you spread into your family and that you feel with your family, the less fear you'll ultimately have of that situation happening.
Yeah, I think so. I do. I really do. I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Fear, love, also gratitude, I think conquers a lot. Conquers a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. Just being grateful to walk around, to be able to see, you have all your fingers and your feet, and, you can get in your car, go to work. I mean, just be grateful for those things that, that it's sunny or snowy or whatever, that you have people around in your life still, or, the people that you have around you, or, you guys that were able to do this podcast, or, just a lot of things actually. Like just being grateful is so crazy. And it's something, I try to get better at, need to get better at, but I think that goes hand in hand with what you're saying, Steve, about love. Like just being grateful and spreading it to everyone.
Yeah,
It's easy to take for granted, though. You have
it
to
is.
realize when you're taking it for granted.
It is, and when you look at all that we have access to nowadays, and this can be like me being an old man, you think of like technology and gaming and politics and religion and going to work and dealing with the family and having struggles. There's so much that we get exposed to and that we deal with every day. It is. It's so easy to take for granted all of that shit and overlook the times you have to like be grateful. And I think and my biggest thing, my takeaway, and I've said this a couple of times, like whoever listens to this, like maybe you're not struggling with this, but if you're struggling with anything, like it's okay to talk to someone. It's okay to like seek help and be vulnerable. Like that was my biggest thing. Like the first, I keep trying to put a timestamp on it. It was like 4 or 5 years that from actual diagnosis to my dad's passing. Like because I think he didn't want to talk about it. One, he knew that there was a point where he just wouldn't remember, right? He just wouldn't know that he has what he has. But I think he wanted to remember himself for who he was up until the point he didn't. And he wanted others to do the same. But I think that the one thing that I did was I just pretended everything was status quo for a while. I didn't really like face it. And I think that probably set me back a little bit in my like progression in like kind of not overcoming, it's not the right word. It's like acceptance and like the stages you go through and all that kind of stuff. But literally anybody out there, and I hope people see us for like being honest and true and like real here. But like between you three, I'm pointing to my screen here, but like I've gotten a lot of good feedback from each of you tonight, and just like things that you've said, all three of you have said things that have helped. So I want you to know that, like from the bottom of my heart. But people out there that do listen to this, like reach out to us. Like honestly, like the point of this podcast is to help people and to make it known that it's okay to be weak sometimes. We're like not okay, and like how do you overcome that, right? We want to motivate, inspire, and help.
Well,
So
I feel like we do that pretty consistently, and that's amazing in itself, really. Because, I mean, not tooting a horn, but if people do listen to this and it reaches a lot, I bet you there's a lot of people who can relate, at least to one of us, if not all of us, at one point or another. And you can learn a lot of stuff from other people's mistakes or what they've been through and how they've, maybe not even learn, I guess learn, but it might even just open up your eyes, to something like, hey, well, I'm going through that, but I didn't even think that way, like I was thinking a totally different direction. And then, one of us said something and it just completely opened up their eyes. And that's truly amazing in itself, really. Just
even extend an olive branch. Like if it's not one of us directly that it's affecting, we all know plenty of people, and we've all been a part of plenty of people's stories, recoveries, situations. We've all helped people get through times, so we can relate in a sense, even though it's not directly, we still have empathy for that situation and have our input from an outside view.
Yeah, man. I do got, a couple quick questions. So with, I guess we kind of been wrapping it up or tying it together, so to speak, with fear, maybe a little doubt in there on, achieving goals or, just moving on in life or overcoming some stuff. And so with all of that, like fear, doubt and stuff, through Bug, through your experiences on all of this, or I guess all of us really, but with fear and stuff, with all of this stuff, has it taught you or push you to maybe put that behind and be like, hey, if I got to live it up to my fullest, or is it going to hold me back? Or I mean, I know it's a work in progress, of course, but like, is it pushing you to be more like, hey, I got to do this. I got to do everything I can now before. I mean, does that fear push you, I guess, to be like, hey, I got to do everything now just in case I get it, or, do everything you can, like a sense of urgency, so to speak?
Yeah, it's it's a good question, and I'll simplify this, right? So think back when like you were in any kind of schooling, like grade school, high school, college, whatever, and you had a project due or a paper due, right? And there's the times I've been there on both ends of the spectrum where I got it done and I'm like, this is great. Like I got weeks to just chill and I don't have to worry about it. It is what it is. And there's other times where I'm like, fucking 11th hour. Like I got to get this shit done or I'm screwed. Right.
Yeah.
And if I look at what made me feel better, it was definitely the first one where I got it done ahead of time. And you tie that to your question, right? Is I don't want to be afraid. I can't avoid it, but I don't want to be afraid. Okay. I really don't. Like in a perfect world, I'm not afraid. I'm just living my life. But I think that fear sometimes motivates you to be a better person, to make sure you're getting your shit done and you're taking care of those around you along with yourself. I think the biggest thing that I've learned in my life with a lot of this stuff is I was so worried about taking care of everybody else that I never took care of myself. I was worried about my mom. I was worried about my sister, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, my wife, my kids. I'm like, what about you? Like you can't be and we talked about this. I was not my best me for them because I wasn't my best me at that time. So in my own way, I was detrimenting them by not being my best me. Focusing sounds selfish. Focus on yourself, be your best you, so you can then be the best you for other people. And maybe if I'm
100%.
not answering a question, I apologize. But basically, that fear has motivated me to be like, look, like I said before, I'm not going to like cut out every sweet, like I'm still going to have a soda here and there, beer. I'm still going to do this. I'm not going to kill myself trying to be working out and eating like a freaking like Olympic athlete. I'm still going to have my things that make me happy in the short term, but I'm still going to make changes to be better for myself in the long term, right? As best as I can, as best as I can control, as best as I can stand. So that fear does motivate you, but I don't want it to own you. It shouldn't control you. It should motivate you. If
you did get there. I was wondering if you're gonna make it around to that. You did get there.
It takes me some time. I blabber for a while, guys. You know me, but
oh yeah,
it should motivate you, not control you.
Exactly.
That's the end all. Yeah.
Because even if you ate perfect and found all this stuff, you can still get in a car crash, or something else could happen. You're focused so much on this that this could happen. So you gotta just do the best you can and live it up and still enjoy yourself, and also control what you can control. You can't control. I mean, like you're saying, you might be able to tone it down a little bit and do some things that'll help, but you can't control everything. So control what you can control. So, like things are going to happen to you in your life and shit's going to suck ass. But what do? I mean, the only way in my mind, and it takes a while to try to even train your brain or your subconscious to like, hey, don't think that. Like, it takes a minute, but I feel like I'm in a decent spot where my mind, I'm like, okay, that sucks. What are we gonna do now? What do I have to do to move forward or to make it better or make my situation better? Like, I can't do anything about what just happened. And yes, it sucks ass. And, it might take a day or a week, but like, and you might sulk in the moment and you got to like process it, but you have to move forward always in life. And even the shitty stuff and all the stuff we're talking about and, fear of, anything really. But if you just say, hey, okay, that sucks and let's deal with it, and look yourself in the mirror in the eyes and tell yourself you love your fucking self, and you're gonna make it, and we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna the best we fucking can, and we're gonna make it out on the other side, and we're gonna do great things. And then you say, okay, how are we gonna do great things? And you just keep going on, and I feel like that almost alleviates a lot of different things. That all that shitty stuff, like, okay, that just made you so much stronger for the road ahead. And, when this door closes, another one opens. I feel like everything we go through in our life just makes you so much tougher. So if you go through a bunch of fucking tough shit, here down the road, you're going to be so tough,
You talk about control and controllables. I mean, fear is just an idea. It's something you make up in your head. So how is that not a controllable? Like, can you learn to control that and then not have that fear? You can talk yourself out of a fear. And it's usually just overcoming that fear. And then it's not a fear anymore. So, I mean, in a controllable sense, how is fear not controllable?
I think it's this was my thing right here. This is like my idea of balance, right?
Yeah, I thought those were saying it, balance.
and I think to your point, Pete, because that's a good point. And I think there's some things, and I'm being selfish. I'm talking about mine. Like, there's an unknown there. There's an unknown that I could get this disease. I may not. So like, I could overcome that fear and say like, let's live my life like I'm not. Well, then I might not live it quite like I should, right? And I think that there's a balance. And the point of me saying there's a balance is like, you want to do enough to help yourself that doesn't sacrifice something else. And Steve, I think you've touched on this earlier, is the mental state, right? Like, if I try to work out 7 days a week, 3 hours a day, eat as healthy as I possibly fucking can, at some point, for me personally, that's going to affect my mental state on another end. So I have to do as much as I can over here that still complements what I'm doing over here. My like guilty pleasures, right? Like, ooh, I'm gonna go get some hot wings tonight, like, or I'm gonna have a couple beers, or I'm gonna do this, like, but I'm balancing as much as I can do over here with enough selfish things that kind of still keep me going, right? And I think that's where like a balance comes in play. But that's the struggle with that, is you have to learn that yourself. So no one can tell you what that is, because that's all up in here. It's all up in your head. So like, my balance is different than all three of you guys's, right? One of you could say, well, hey, alcohol is not great for me. I can cut it out and never have another drop again, right? Or, and I don't think anybody, that some people can do that, right? But for me, probably not possible. Yeah, as we all take a drink. But
yeah,
other people say like, I'm only going to eat chicken and veggies my entire life. Well, okay, for some people that might work and others not, right? But like, you have to find that balance within. You have to find what works for you.
Yeah, but look at fear. You fall on one side of fear and it's regret. You fall on the other side of fear and it's gratitude. You overcame it, your gratitude, you're happy you did it. You fall short and you let fear be a barrier, then it's regret.
Steve, I got a question real quick. Sorry,
Okay.
I don't know if you're gonna, but I'm wondering if we have the same outlook on this because I look at you and I'm like, he's probably thinking the same thing. So,
Nice beard.
Naturally.
that too, but man, I'm just kidding. So
Sorry.
with like fear and kind of what you were saying, P, like okay, you can overcome it and in your head and all that. So one way, I guess, like for fear and stuff. So if you're like, hey, I'm afraid of heights, right? And yeah, Jesus Christ, buddy, you're afraid of your own bath towel. I'm just
Yeah, I muted
kidding.
my mic for a reason.
Yeah.
God.
But
Look at me drying off over here.
Oh god.
so Bug, you went a different with balance, whatever. I was thinking more of like, hey, well, if you're afraid of this thing, like if you focus on something more important ahead of it, that's your focus. You don't focus on what you're afraid of. You just go straight to like, okay, well, if you're afraid of heights, but your son or your daughter's at that ledge, you don't give a fuck about heights. You're going to get them no matter what. And you're just like, okay, I am focused on that goal and that is my focus and I'm going to make that happen. And then maybe it doesn't disappear fully, but it definitely takes a back seat. Thoughts?
I guess
I don't know if there was a question involved in there, but
yeah,
Guess
I don't know if there's really a question there or not.
I guess it was like maybe like is your thought process similar or
Like
same
that-
like style like
You
hey
gotta look at the
Yeah, look-
immediate fear
yeah
to
to like
see what
your goal
is the.
your important shit, so to speak,
I mean,
or more important
so-
than your fear, right?
okay.
Maybe not. We got completely different.
Well, so I mean, it's that coin in my pocket, right? The obstacle is the way.
Yeah,
Is kind of what you're saying. Is
Yeah.
that the obstacle, the fear that you're overcoming? The only way to move past it is to take that fear and turn it upside down.
yeah. It's
Right.
there, but you
Yeah.
realize you have to get past it, and then you focus on what's past that, and you're like, hey, I need to
So-
get past that, right?
So one way that sometimes I look at things is that fear. Okay, you got a fear of doing something, right? A fear of
Nice.
Oh no, Trump. Trump.
I'm just
Go
kidding,
on,
man. I'm
Steve.
afraid of spiders, man. I'm a big pussy too.
uh,
So it's fine.
you
Now, go
gotta-
ahead.
like Josh, your failure that you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You had a fear of leaving that job.
Mhm.
What's greater, the fear of leaving it or the fear of not leaving it?
See.
So it's which fear. Okay, so your balance, right?
Mhm.
If I don't go after this, what's that going to be? But if I
See.
do, it's all about what you want. And I guess, and then to your point, Brad, it's what you want out of life is what are you willing to face and sacrifice and face, and what fears you're willing to face to reach that end goal. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in a similar way, I guess, yeah, but
Your answers are not immediate either. I mean, it takes a while to understand the answers.
Yeah.
And that's fine because while you're going through it, and I mean, the answers are developing.
yep.
You don't understand
And they
it.
change. They
Yeah.
can change based on other decisions. So,
But that molds you into the person you are, and then understanding that you overcame that fear. It sucked while you're doing it, and you were full of fear, and just it was hard, but you did it.
yeah.
You have to acknowledge, and you have to pat yourself on the back that you did it, and you have to give yourself some recognition that you did it, because if you don't, then like The hell, you went through all that shit for what? For nothing?
You gotta celebrate
Like-
the small victories.
No,
Good point.
absolutely. But I mean, it's not the end. It's not the
I
end
mean,
goal.
Maybe don't throw a sweet 16, but yeah, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
acknowledge it.
They better. But that just sets you up for the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep celebrating. It's always good to celebrate. You know, with kind of what you're saying. I mean, if my favorite quote from Eric Thomas is, "You gotta have the power of your why." He always says, and he said, if you don't have anything driving you or pushing you towards, whatever goal, or like, so say like you want to do it for your, your son or your daughter or your, wife, husband, whatever. Like if that why isn't more stronger than your obstacle or your fear, then you're never going to get past it and you're always going to quit. So if you're doing it for money and you want 100,000, but you're making like 60 and you're like, well, it'd be nice. No, you have to be like, no, I need, my son to be able to look at me in my face and be proud of me. So I have to get past this to do it. Like if you don't have that why pushing you past that, then fear will always win and the obstacle will always win. And like, I don't know. That's why I love that quote so fucking much, because I feel like it's so fucking true. It resonates with me very, very well.
Have you
The
ever
power of your wife? My bad.
have you ever? Yeah, I really do like that, because it was like early on in my like business career that I was so focused on like the what, the how, the who, but so much of our life is like the why, right? It's kind of like thinking of like the end in means, or the end in mind, right? Or am I saying that right? Like if you think about the end in mind, you're thinking about the why. Like, why are we doing what we're doing? And if you think about that, you can back it up so many different like steps and directions to get to how you're going to do it, what you're going to do, and who's going to be involved. So like,
Yeah.
power of why is really freaking powerful. Like, so yeah, yeah, Brad, I think that's a very solid like mindset on that. Is, I think, and I feel like I'm not the only one, but like just understanding the why first puts all the other pieces into place a lot easier than if you're trying to build it out the other way around. So
yeah, because then it's easy to fail.
yeah.
Yeah, what you're saying, Bug, is to begin with the end in mind.
Thank you.
Start out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, you start out something with how the ending should look, not how the start should look.
Yep.
You
The
figure
wisdom
out.
is in the beard.
Yes.
Wow.
Bearded
Yes.
wise. Yes.
That means I'm like super not wise compared to
Yeah, we shouldn't be
Holy
listening
shit.
to you.
Yeah, why am I even here? I'll just
Good to
make,
have you here, but
I'll just edit the TikToks and we'll go from there. I shouldn't be saying shit.
Oh,
I know, the bearded wise man, shit.
Oh, fuck. Who's got the
Wow.
gold, frankincense, and myrrh, huh? Get back on the religion topic.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Kidding,
awkward guy in
kidding.
the top right corner.
Kidding.
You got no beard
Kidding.
here.
I actually have a beard. I just choose not to grow it. So fuck you guys.
Yeah,
Never.
you're trying out for High School Musical. It's fine.
How did you know?
yeah.
I do have the same birthday as Zac Efron, so don't challenge me. How I
Fun
know that?
fact.
Stop it, bro. I know you're trying to flex on us right now.
Oh, dude.
What a
Lord,
weird
bud.
flex, man.
What a terrible plug.
Ah.
Just
Show you
so
my
you
one
know,
pack.
I have the same birthday as Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Cool.
Literally.
What if
the
I
same
told you I have the
birthday.
same birthday as Tom Brady, buddy?
You really?
No, he's fucking making that fully up.
No.
But I will say,
You'll
Elvis,
never know. He's August,
died
baby.
on my
I'll tell you
birthday.
that.
Your birthday's on August 4th, so
Yeah, his is either August 3rd or August 4th. I looked it up one time. It's like a fucking 5
Steve's
hours
on
off.
it.
That's all I know.
Steve's on it right now.
I'm fucking look shit up.
Keep
How would you
tuned.
say? Yeah.
Yeah,
All I gotta say is this is a real fact. Elvis died on my
on the
birthday.
shitter.
August 3rd.
Fuck. I got it, but it's one day off. You know.
Yeah, it's the same birthday,
You
though.
can't
No,
say
you can't-
I nailed
You
it.
can't say
Holy shit.
I nailed it.
I
and then
said
was one
August
day
3rd
off.
or August 4th. I said both
Nailed it that we
ones.
don't
alright?
have the same birthday.
Well, then
All
I'm
right,
6
well-
foot. I'm just gonna round up. All right.
There you
Well,
go.
You know, he was born at
It starts with a
11:59 on August 3rd. You know, and I was
It was
born
a
a
leap
minute
year.
after. So
I don't believe that's
you know,
true.
We're gonna. I actually don't know that one, but
You didn't know
Oh
the
my
first
God.
one.
I said
know,
August 3rd.
if you're not careful,
August
Brad,
baby,
people-
Jesus Christ.
If you're gonna try to relate yourself to certain people, you better be careful because the viewers are not gonna respect
No,
your
you're gonna
opinion.
fact check you, man.
If you're gonna say that we're born on the same day, but it was a day apart, no big deal.
Could have been a leap year. I'm not quite sure. Who knows?
Yeah.
11:59, same difference.
When in Rome.
When in
When in
Rome,
Rome.
you know, smooth as eggs.
To each their
If
own.
the shoe fits.
That's not your
Carpe
son.
diem, motherfucker.
Carpe diem. That's a good one. Yeah, get busy carpe in these DMs, buddy.
Oh, okay. Not sure what that meant, but sounded a little
Just laying
sexual.
carpet in your DMs.
Uh,
Extra shag, please.
Give me a couple of
we're
layers.
close, all right. You know.
Something to work through.
Listen.
Peanut butter.
Oh God,
God.
big.
Wait, what?
All right.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know where we're going down. We're getting way off the rails. I feel like we need to, bring it full circle there, Bug. You know, for me,
Love it.
it's, you know, I love to listen to people who've already accomplished it, and you know, I know Steve's the same way. He listens to a lot of leaders who've done great things. So, you know, my take on what you kind of been saying was, learn from people who've been through it, or kind of I don't know, take their wisdom. But I would love to hear your full take on our way of, I don't know, bringing anything to the light, or making you see things in a different way. Maybe how it helped, and maybe how it could help maybe some viewers going through some of the same shit.
I think
With doubt or
there's-
fear or
there's-
self-worth or overcoming any of the obstacles, any of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know it sounds like cliche, but there's a lot of like good one-liners like in this, like
When in
one-liner.
Rome.
Yeah, when in Rome. Yeah. And I know I said this, but I know some of others did, like on a different context. But if I were to walk away and take something from this podcast, right, and everybody can do as they please, but it hit on a lot of subjects, like my whole baseball journey, my situation with my dad, life, the controllables came up a lot, and I truly believe that control the controllables, but also like focus on your mindset. And I think that's something Steve said was, and it's kind of ironic given situation with my dad, but at the same time, like, yeah, control your mindset, focus on your mindset, and try to place that in its best situation so that it can be the best for you. Because it's so easy to get off the rails, because we transition into fear, and fear can truly own you. But talking through it with you guys and hearing your thoughts is, let fear, like Brad, I think you said this, let fear motivate you, not control you, but motivate you.
And I'll put
And
you in a cage. But
Yeah, it
motivate
really
you.
will. But P, to your point too, like, fear is something you can control. Like you can let that guide you how it is. Like, yeah, it can still motivate you, but it can guide you to maybe the place you need it to be, and not let it own you. And just overall, like, I think everybody said this tonight, is truly just like, be open, be vulnerable. Don't expect to know everything. Take your failures, take your fear, take whatever happens to you and use it to fuel you to be a better you, to reposition your path and your journey. And um, don't think you have it all figured out. Like the moment I thought I did, I didn't. And the moment I thought I did again, I didn't. Like I don't have it all figured out. Like, and that's with baseball, with family, with my dad, like everything. Like the moment I thought had it figured out, I really didn't. And that's okay because all that does is like allow you to learn and attempt to be a better you. So yeah, a lot. I got to give you guys credit. I appreciate this. Like I said, this is super therapeutic for me. This episode very particularly like therapeutic, but I do appreciate you guys' input and just like willingness to kind of hear like what's going on and being open to it and honest with it. So I
No, we
appreciate it.
appreciate you. I mean,
Yeah.
you definitely, spoke some hard truths and revealed a lot about your own story that obviously couldn't be easy to talk about. But thank you for sharing it and feeling comfortable enough to make yourself vulnerable to allow our feedback.
For sure.
Yeah, man. It's I
Yeah.
know we do this for, you know, for mainly for the viewers and whatnot, but well, I mean, we also do it for ourselves a little bit, or for each other at least, at minimum,
100%.
to help each other grow
100%.
or to get through some shit, because it'll help you and them, or whoever out there listening to it is awesome. So, that being said, if this is your first time listening in, I mean, go ahead and throw a question our way, email or TikTok or anything like that. Like, we are here to help, and we're here to just drop any knowledge we can. And we tell a lot of stories about our journey and what we've been through and how we overcame a lot of shit, and kind of our mindset now and what we think is the best way to move forward. And I know sometimes we're not as good as the bearded man over here, the wise tales, but we do our best. So
Shocker,
Funny
they're
thing
not
is-
talking about me.
Yeah, not you, buddy.
That invisible beard,
yeah,
man.
I know you guys
Yeah.
can't see Bug, but he has zero facial hair, strong jawline, zero
Put a
facial hair.
green,
Life choice.
green
life
screen
choice.
on his beard.
Life choice. Life is full of choices,
Oh.
kids. Choose
Oh
wisely.
yeah, Steve,
Or
anything
not
you had before
wisely.
we wrap it up, big dog?
No, I just I appreciate being able to sit in on that conversation with Bug there, because it makes me feel like I know him a whole lot better in the short amount of time that we've gotten to know each other, and I feel honored to hear your story and to be a part of it all. So yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you very much. And for what you open up about too. Like, you realize there's more similarities between people than differences sometimes. And
Oh yeah.
I appreciate this in the exact reverse is exactly what you opened up about and shared about and all of us across the board. But obviously, some relation there as well. And I appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Well, fellas, Bug, any last remarks? I think that's it for me. If not, let's raise them up.
No.
You know how we do.
Yep. I'll raise them up, fellas. Hell of a night.
Yep. Thanks for watching,
Appreciate
everybody.
all
Thanks
you.
for kicking it, fellas. As
Salud.
always.
Salud.